I built my first biotech startup at 28, sold it at 32 for 47 million. The second one went for 86. By 38, I had my third, Blue Signal Therapeutics, and enough money to buy whatever I thought would make me happy. I thought Claire would make me happy. She worked at a gallery in Soho when I met her, tall, angular in that expensive way that comes from good breeding and careful maintenance. Her dark hair always pulled back, revealing a neck that seemed to stretch forever. She had this way of looking at paintings, chin tilted, eyes narrowed, like she was solving equations. I watched her for 20 minutes before I worked up the nerve to approach. "The brushwork is remarkable," I said, nodding toward a canvas that looked like someone had sneezed paint onto it. She turned. Her smile was polite, professional. "Are you familiar with gestural abstraction?" I wasn't. I knew proteins and cellular pathways and FDA approval processes. I knew nothing about art, but I wanted to know everything about her. "Not particularly," I admitted, "but I'd like to learn." That was the truth. I wanted to learn everything she could teach me. How to appreciate beauty for its own sake. How to move through the world with that kind of quiet confidence. How to fill the spaces in my life that money couldn't touch. Our courtship was methodical. Dinner at restaurants she chose. Gallery openings where I stood slightly behind her, listening to conversations about provenance and technique. She never reached for my hand first, but she didn't pull away when I reached for hers. When I proposed, she studied the ring, a 3-carat emerald-cut diamond, with the same careful attention she gave paintings. "It's beautiful," she said finally. "Is that a yes?" Another pause. "Yes, Caleb." It's a yes. I should have noticed the calculation in that pause, the way she examined everything, including me, like she was determining value. But I was 34 and successful and lonely in ways I couldn't articulate. I wanted a wife. I wanted a family. I wanted someone to share the fortune I'd built. Claire gave me what I wanted, in precise measurements. Our wedding was elegant. 200 guests at the plaza. Claire wore her grandmother's pearls and looked stunning in photographs. She danced with me during our first song, her hand light on my shoulder, her smile camera-ready. When people complimented us on how perfect we looked together, she squeezed my arm and thanked them graciously. Perfect. That word followed us everywhere. The first 2 years of marriage felt like an extended audition. I was learning to be a husband, and Claire was learning to be a wife. She redecorated our apartment with pieces from galleries she knew. I bought whatever she suggested. She planned dinner parties with couples from her world, art dealers, collectors, trust fund babies who'd never worked a day but spoke eloquently about creativity and vision. I learned to nod and smile and write checks to the right causes. Claire was good at being married. She remembered important dates, selected thoughtful gifts, maintained our social calendar with military precision. She was an excellent hostess, a knowledgeable dinner companion, a beautiful woman on my arm at charity galas. On paper, we were everything a successful couple should be. In private, we were two people living adjacent lives. She had her studio in the spare bedroom where she painted, abstract pieces that she never showed me until they were finished. I had my office where I worked 16-hour days building Blue Signal. We met for breakfast and dinner, shared a bed, made love on a schedule that felt comfortable rather than passionate. It wasn't unhappy. It was organized. Then Lena arrived. Claire was 36 when she got pregnant. We'd been trying for 8 months, and I'd started to worry. Not about fertility, the doctors said we were both fine, but about whether Claire truly wanted children. She approached pregnancy the way she approached everything else, with careful research and meticulous planning. She read books about fetal development, hired a nutritionist, practiced prenatal yoga. She documented everything in a leather journal, tracking weight gain and doctor's appointments with the same precision she used for gallery inventory. But when they placed Lena in my arms for the first time, something shifted. Not in Claire. She smiled and said all the right things and looked radiant in the photos. In me. This tiny person with her mother's dark hair and what I swore were my eyes, and suddenly I understood what love actually meant. I'd thought I loved Claire. I'd confused admiration with love, desire with devotion. What I felt for this baby was something else entirely. Something that made my chest tight and my hands shake. Something that made me want to be better than I'd ever been. Lena was perfect. She slept through the night by 3 months. She smiled early, laughed easily, reached her milestones ahead of schedule. Claire was an excellent mother, organized, attentive, protective. She kept detailed records of feeding schedules and developmental markers. She read parenting books and implemented strategies with scientific precision. But there were moments when I caught her studying Lena the way she studied paintings. Analytical, evaluating, like she was determining authenticity. I told myself I was imagining things. New fathers are paranoid, I read. We see threats everywhere. We overanalyze every interaction. Claire loved Lena. I could see it in the way she held her, the way she sang to her during bath time, the way she decorated the nursery with hand-painted murals of woodland creatures. Still, something nagged at me. Nothing I could name, nothing I could point to. Just a feeling that grew stronger as Lena grew older. Claire traveled more after Lena turned 2. Gallery business, she said. Research trips to museums in Paris and London, art fairs in Miami and Basel. She was establishing herself as a serious curator, building a reputation that would open doors for the gallery. It was important work. I understood that. I stayed home with Lena and the nanny. We had elaborate tea parties with her stuffed animals. I taught her to identify different types of clouds from her bedroom window. She called me Daddy in a voice that made everything else in my life seem secondary. When Claire was gone, Lena seemed more relaxed, more herself. She laughed louder, asked more questions, wanted to help with everything I was doing. When Claire returned, something in Lena would quiet. Not sadness exactly, more like caution. Maybe she's just adjusting to having mommy back, the pediatrician suggested when I mentioned it. Some children need time to transition between caregivers. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe a lot of things. By the time Lena turned 5, Claire's trips were lasting longer. 10 days in Europe became 2 weeks. 2 weeks became 3. She always had reasons. Gallery acquisitions required extensive vetting. International collectors needed face-to-face meetings. Art fair negotiations couldn't be rushed. Her explanations were detailed and convincing. Lena started asking when Mommy was coming home. Not sadly, just matter-of-factly, the way she asked when dinner would be ready or whether it was going to rain. I realized she'd learned not to expect too much from Claire's presence. I'd learned the same thing, though I hadn't admitted it yet. The night before Lena's 6th birthday, I sat in her room watching her sleep. She'd insisted on pigtails that morning, and they'd come partially undone during the day, leaving her hair messy across the pillow. Her breathing was soft and even. Her hands were curled into small fists under her chin. This was my daughter. This was the person I loved most in the world. This was the reason I worked so hard, saved so much, planned so carefully for the future. I should have been perfectly happy. Instead, I felt something cold settling in my chest. A question I didn't want to ask, a truth I didn't want to see. But it was there, waiting in the shadows of everything I'd chosen not to notice. Growing stronger every time Claire studied Lena with those calculating eyes. Every time Lena seemed to brace herself when Claire walked into a room. Every time I caught myself making excuses for why my perfect family never quite felt complete. The man who built futures had spent 6 years refusing to see the present clearly. But the present has a way of demanding attention. And mine was about to demand everything. Claire announces Lena's Quebec trip 3 weeks before her 18th birthday. "A college art tour," she says, spreading brochures across our kitchen counter like evidence. "McGill has an exceptional program. So does Concordia. She needs to see her options." Lena stands beside her, nodding. She's tall now, almost as tall as Claire, with the same careful posture, the same way of holding her face perfectly still when she doesn't want to reveal what she's thinking. It's a good idea, I say, because it is. Lena's been accepted to several schools, but she's been vague about her preferences. Maybe seeing campuses will help her decide. We'll be gone 5 days, Claire continues. I've made appointments with admissions counselors, scheduled studio visits. She needs to understand what serious art education looks like. I nod. Write the check she'll need for expenses. Kiss them both goodbye at the airport. 4 days later, I'm in my office when my assistant brings me the mail. Mixed in with the usual correspondence is an envelope from Montreal General Hospital, my name on the address label, not Claire's, mine. I stare at it for 30 seconds before opening it. Emergency room charges. Lena Hartwell, treated for dehydration and exhaustion, discharged the same day. Bill total, $847 Canadian dollars. The address listed isn't McGill University or Concordia. It's the Fairmont Queen Elizabeth Hotel. I read the bill 3 times. Then I call Claire. How was the campus tour yesterday? I ask when she answers. A pause. Brief, but I catch it. Very informative. Lena was impressed with McGill's facilities. That's good to hear. Everything okay? You both sound tired when we talked last night. Long days, lots of walking. You know how these tours are. I do know. I went on plenty with Lena when she was looking at East Coast schools. Universities don't generally schedule tours that require emergency room visits for dehydration. Did you see the Musée des Beaux-Arts? I ask. Of course. Lena loved the contemporary collection. I hang up and call the hospital. After 20 minutes of transfers and hold music, I reach someone who can access billing records. I'm calling about charges for my daughter, I say, reading them Lena's information. Yes, Mr. Hartwell. She was brought in yesterday evening by hotel staff. Dehydration, as I mentioned. But she recovered quickly. Was discharged around midnight. Hotel staff? Yes, from the Fairmont. Room service found her collapsed in the bathroom. But like I said, she's fine. Just needed fluids. I thank them and hang up. Sit in my office chair, staring at the bill. Room service found her collapsed in the bathroom. At a luxury hotel, not a university dormitory. I open my laptop and navigate to the Fairmont Queen Elizabeth's website. Their cheapest room is $400 a night, not where you'd stay for a college tour, not unless money wasn't a concern, or unless someone else was paying. I call Claire again. This time she doesn't answer. When they return 2 days later, Lena hugs me at the airport. She feels thinner than when she left. There are shadows under her eyes that makeup can't quite hide. How are you feeling, sweetheart? I ask. Better, she says quickly. Just tired from traveling. Claire appears beside us, pulling a small rolling suitcase. She's wearing a coat I don't recognize. Expensive looking. Camel-colored wool with horn buttons. New coat? I ask. She glances down at it like she'd forgotten she was wearing it. Oh, yes. Found it in a boutique near the hotel. I thought you were staying on campus. We were, most of the time. But the hotels near McGill were booked, so we had to stay downtown the last night. The last night. When Lena ended up in the emergency room. That must have been inconvenient, I say. A little. But the room was lovely. Great view of the mountain. In the Uber home, I watch them in the rearview mirror. Lena stares out the window, silent. Claire checks her phone constantly, her fingers moving quickly across the screen. When we stop at a red light, I see her typing a message to someone named Alan. I don't ask who Alan is. That night, after Lena goes to bed, I find Claire in her studio. She's unpacking art books and postcards from museum shops, souvenirs from their educational trip. I got a bill from Montreal General, I say, her hands still on a book of Canadian landscape paintings. A bill? For Lena. Emergency room charges. She sets the book down carefully. Oh, that. She got a little dehydrated on our last day. Too much walking, not enough water. I should have mentioned it. The bill was sent to a hotel address. Like I said, we had to stay downtown the last night. The campus accommodations fell through. Her voice is calm, reasonable. The same tone she uses when explaining gallery acquisitions to potential investors. But she won't look at me directly. "Who's Alan?" I ask. Now she looks at me. "Alan? You were texting someone named Alan in the car." A long pause. Too long. "Alan Rowe. He's a dealer I know from Montreal. He showed us some pieces while we were there, for the gallery." "Is he the one who recommended the hotel?" "Among other things." She turns back to her books. "Caleb, I don't understand why you're interrogating me. We took a trip to help our daughter make an important decision about her future. If you're concerned about the cost..." "I'm not concerned about the cost." "Then what?" I watch her organize postcards into neat piles. Her movements are precise, controlled. She's been controlling information the same way for 18 years, I realize, organizing truth into manageable portions, revealing only what she thinks I need to know. "Nothing," I say finally. "I'm glad Lena got to see the schools." 3 weeks later, I hire a private investigator. I don't do this in anger. I don't throw accusations or demand confessions. I approach it the way I approach everything else, methodically, analytically, like a scientist examining a hypothesis that needs testing. The investigator's name is Rachel Santos. She used to work for the FBI. Her office is small and impersonal, furnished with gray metal desks and filing cabinets. She listens to my concerns without judgment, takes notes in a leather portfolio. "I need to know if my wife is having an affair," I tell her. "What makes you think she is?" I explain about the trips, the hotel bills, the phone calls, the way Claire looks at me now, like she's calculating something, the way Lena seems to be carrying a secret that's too heavy for her. "How long has this been going on?" "I don't know. Maybe years. Maybe longer than that." Rachel nods. "We'll start with recent activity. Financial records, travel documents, communication patterns. If there's something to find, we'll find it." She calls me 6 weeks later. "We need to meet," she says. Her office feels smaller this time. Or maybe I feel larger, taking up more space now that I know what I know. Rachel has 3 manila folders arranged on her desk. She opens the first one without preamble. "Your wife has been having an affair with Alan Rowe for approximately 4 years, she says. "He's married, lives in Montreal, owns 2 art galleries. They meet during her business trips, but also at hotels in New York when he's here on business." She slides photographs across the desk. Claire and a man I don't recognize entering the Plaza Hotel. Claire and the same man at a restaurant I've never been to. Claire kissing him goodbye outside what looks like an apartment building. Rachel continues. "The Quebec trip wasn't about colleges. Your daughter was there, but she spent most of the time alone while your wife was with Mr. Rowe. Based on credit card records, they had dinner together every night. Your daughter ate room service in a separate room." I study the photographs. Claire looks happy in them, relaxed in a way I haven't seen in years. Rachel opens the second folder. "There's more," she says. "Financial irregularities. Your wife has been transferring money to an account in her name only. Small amounts over several years, but it adds up to about $180,000. "For what?" "We're not sure. The account is used for art purchases, but the pieces aren't listed in your home insurance policy. They may be gifts for Mr. Rowe, or she may be planning to leave and wants liquid assets." I nod. None of this surprises me. It should, but it doesn't. It feels like confirmation of something I've known without knowing for a very long time. Rachel hesitates before opening the third folder. "There's something else," she says. "About your daughter." She slides a single document across the desk. DNA test results. Lena's genetic profile compared to mine. Probability of paternity, 0%. I read the numbers 3 times. They don't change. We used samples from hairbrushes, Rachel explains quietly. Court-ordered tests would require more formal procedures, but these results are definitive. Lena is not your biological daughter. I set the document down carefully. My hands are steady, which surprises me. My voice is steady too when I speak. How long have you known? We got the results yesterday. I wanted to verify them before. No. How long have you suspected? Rachel studies my face. From the beginning. Your wife's behavior patterns suggested long-term deception, not just a recent affair. When someone lies about one fundamental thing, they usually lie about others. I gather the photographs and documents into a neat stack. What do I owe you? Mr. Hartwell, I know this is... What do I owe you? She tells me. I write the check. Thank her for her thoroughness. In the elevator down to the parking garage, I feel something I haven't felt in 18 years. Clarity. The kind of cold, clean understanding that comes when you finally stop pretending not to see what's directly in front of you. I drive home through afternoon traffic, the manila folders on the passenger seat beside me. When I stop at red lights, I don't think about Claire or Alan Rowe or how long this has been going on. I think about Lena. The daughter who isn't my daughter. The child I raised and loved and would have done anything to protect. The child who's been carrying this secret her entire life. By the time I reach our driveway, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I don't confront Claire. I don't rage or demand explanations or throw the photographs at her feet. Instead, I go to my office and retrieve a document I haven't looked at in 7 years. The post-nuptial agreement. Claire signed it during my lymphoma treatment when I was 39 and scared I might die. My lawyers had insisted on updating our estate planning, and Claire had agreed to the post-nup without argument. She was caring for me then, driving me to chemotherapy, sleeping in hospital chairs, holding my hand while I vomited into plastic basins. I thought she signed it out of love. Now I realize she signed it because she thought I was dying and didn't want to complicate her inheritance. I spread the document across my desk and read every clause. Most of it is standard: asset division, spousal support, custody arrangements. But there's one section that makes my chest tight with something that isn't quite relief. In the event of fraud, misrepresentation, or material deception by either party regarding the fundamental nature of the marriage or family unit, all joint marital claims shall be null and void, and the deceived party shall retain full control of all assets acquired before, during, or through the marriage. My lawyer had called it a nuclear option, a way to protect assets if either of us committed fraud that threatened the foundation of our marriage. I'd agreed to it because I never imagined I'd need it. The fundamental nature of the family unit. Like paternity. I call Thomas Brennan at 6 a.m. the next morning. He's been my attorney for 15 years, handled the sale of my first 2 companies, drafted my will and trust documents. He's also one of the few people who knew about my cancer before I told Claire. I need to see you today, I tell him. What's the urgency? I need to invoke the fraud clause in my post-nuptial agreement. A long pause. Jesus, Caleb. What happened? I'd rather discuss it in person. His office overlooks Central Park, floor-to-ceiling windows, leather furniture that smells like money and discretion. Thomas reads through Rachel's report without comment, studies the DNA results with the same careful attention he gives SEC filings. This is airtight, he says finally. 18 years of fraud regarding paternity definitely qualifies as material deception about the fundamental nature of the family unit. What does that mean practically? It means you can invoke the nuclear option. Claire loses all claims to joint assets, including the apartment, the house in the Hamptons, your stock portfolio, retirement accounts. Everything reverts to you. I nod. What about Lena? That's more complicated. You've supported her for 18 years, which creates legal obligations regardless of biology. But the trust fund you established for her college expenses, That can be revoked since it was set up as a gift contingent on your paternal relationship. I think about this. Lena is starting at Columbia in the fall, art history major. I've already paid her first semester tuition. I want to revoke the trust, I say, but I'll send her a check for 1 semester. After that, she's on her own. Thomas makes notes. What about spousal support for Claire? What does the agreement say? In cases of fraud, no spousal support is required. Then no spousal support. Caleb, are you sure about this? Once we start the process, there's no going back. Claire is going to lose everything: the apartment, her gallery connections, her social status. This will destroy her life. I stand up and walk to the window. Central Park stretches out below, green and orderly. People walking dogs, pushing strollers, living their normal Tuesday afternoon lives. She destroyed my life 18 years ago, I say without turning around. She just did it slowly so I wouldn't notice. The legal process takes 3 weeks. Thomas's firm handles everything with surgical precision: account freezes, asset transfers, title changes, trust revocations. It's all done quietly through law offices and bank statements and official notifications. I don't tell Claire what's happening. I go to work, eat dinner with my family, sleep in the same bed I've shared with her for 18 years. The only difference is that I watch her differently now. Not with suspicion or anger, but with the clinical detachment of a scientist observing a specimen. She doesn't know her world is ending. She checks her phone at dinner, probably texting Alan Rowe. She discusses Lena's college plans with the same careful enthusiasm she's always shown. She kisses me goodnight and curls up on her side of the bed like nothing has changed. Everything has changed. On a Thursday morning in June, 3 days after Lena's graduation party, Claire tries to use her credit card at Bergdorf Goodman, and it's declined. She calls the bank from the store and learns that all our joint accounts have been frozen pending legal review. She comes home white-faced and shaking. Caleb, there's something wrong with our accounts. The bank won't tell me anything except that there's a legal hold. I'm in my office, reviewing quarterly reports for Blue Signal. I look up from my laptop like I'm mildly concerned instead of completely prepared. A legal hold? That's strange. Did you call Thomas? I tried. His secretary said he'd get back to me. I'm sure it's just a paperwork issue. These things happen with high net worth accounts. She nods, but I can see doubt creeping into her eyes. For the first time in our marriage, Claire is starting to understand that she doesn't control the narrative. Thomas calls her the next day. He explains the situation with professional courtesy and legal precision. The evidence of fraud, the invocation of the post-nuptial agreement, the asset transfers that have already been completed. Claire hangs up and sits in our living room for 2 hours without moving. When I come home from work, she's waiting for me. We need to talk, she says. I sit across from her in the leather chair I bought when we were first married. She's on the couch, her hands folded in her lap like a child called to account for breaking something valuable. I know you know, she says. Know what? About Alan, about Lena, about all of it. I don't respond. Let her fill the silence. I never meant for this to happen. When I got pregnant, I hoped. You hoped I was the father? She nods. Alan was married, is married. It was complicated. When Lena was born, she looked enough like you that I convinced myself. For 18 years? I know how it sounds, but you loved her so much. You were such a good father, better than her biological father ever could have been. I thought maybe it was better this way. I study her face. She's crying now, which is something I've seen maybe a dozen times in our entire marriage. Her tears look genuine, but I find I don't care whether they are or not. Were you ever going to tell me? I don't know. Maybe. When she was older. When it wouldn't matter as much. It matters now. I know. I know it does. But Caleb, please. Think about Lena. She doesn't deserve to lose everything because I made mistakes. You're right, I say. She doesn't deserve it. But she's not losing everything because you made mistakes. She's losing everything because you committed fraud for 18 years. Claire's face crumples. What can I do? How can I fix this? I stand up. You can't. It's already fixed. The next morning, I write Lena a check for $50,000, enough for 1 semester at Columbia, including room and board. I put it in an envelope with a letter that I rewrite 4 times before I'm satisfied. Dear Lena, I know you know the truth about your parentage. I'm sorry you've had to carry this secret for so long. You deserve better than that. This check will cover your first semester at Columbia. After that, you'll need to find other funding, scholarships, student loans, or help from your biological father. I realize this seems harsh, but continuing to support you financially would be enabling the fraud that has defined our family for 18 years. I want you to know that loving you was never a mistake. You were the best part of my marriage to your mother, even if our relationship was built on a lie. I hope someday you'll understand why I had to make this choice. I wish you well in your studies and your life. Caleb. I seal the envelope and leave it on her desk. By the time she reads it, I'll be gone. I spend the rest of the day packing. Not everything, just clothes and personal items that matter to me. Books, a few photographs from before Lena was born, my laptop and important documents. Claire is at the gallery, probably trying to explain to her colleagues why her husband has frozen their joint accounts and why she might not be able to afford the lease renewal. Lena is at her friend's house, celebrating the end of high school with people who still believe in simple truths like family and love and trust. I leave my wedding ring on the kitchen counter next to a copy of the DNA test results. The doorman helps me load my suitcases into a taxi. He doesn't ask questions, but I can see the curiosity in his eyes. Mr. Hartwell leaving with luggage on a random Tuesday afternoon. No Mrs. Hartwell or Miss Lena to see him off. Where to? The driver asks. I give him the address of a hotel in Midtown. Tomorrow I'll start looking for a new apartment, something smaller, something that doesn't echo with 18 years of careful lies. As we pull away from the building, I don't look back. I don't think about Claire discovering the frozen accounts, or Lena reading my letter or the phone calls that will inevitably come. I think about the man I was 3 months ago, the man who built biotech companies and believed in the power of precision and proof. The man who thought he had a wife who loved him and a daughter who shared his DNA and a life worth the compromises he'd made to maintain it. That man is gone. What's left is someone harder, cleaner. Someone who understands that the truth isn't always kind, but it's always more reliable than the lies we tell ourselves to avoid pain. The taxi merges into traffic, carrying me toward whatever comes next. I don't regret anything I've done. I regret everything I didn't do sooner. Claire tries to fight the asset freeze, but Thomas's documentation is thorough. Every bank account, every investment, every piece of property we owned jointly, all legally transferred to my name only. The post-nuptial agreement she signed during my cancer treatment becomes her undoing, each clause a wall she can't scale. She hires a lawyer, then fires him when he explains that fraud voids prenuptial and post-nuptial agreements in New York. She hires another one. Same result. I watch her unraveling from my new apartment on the Upper West Side, not through surveillance or private investigators, but through the careful network of professional relationships that connect our worlds. Gallery owners, art dealers, collectors, they all talk. And what they're talking about is Claire Hartwell's sudden fall from grace. The first domino falls at the Whitney benefit in July. Claire has been co-chairing their Contemporary Acquisitions Committee for 5 years, a prestigious position that came with social cachet and professional connections. When her personal check for the auction bounces, whispers start circulating. Financial troubles, messy divorce, questions about her judgment. By August, her position at the Soho Gallery becomes untenable. Not because of scandal, the art world thrives on scandal, but because of liquidity. Gallery owners need partners who can invest in inventory, not employees who can't cover their own expenses. I don't orchestrate her professional demise. I don't need to. I simply stop protecting her. For 18 years, I've been her safety net in ways she never acknowledged. Letters of credit for gallery purchases, co-signatures on exhibition insurance, personal guarantees for art loans. When those disappear, her professional reputation crumbles under scrutiny it's never had to withstand. Thomas handles the legal details with surgical precision. Asset investigations reveal the $180,000 Claire transferred to her private account, money she spent on gifts for Alan Rowe, hotel rooms, expensive dinners she claimed were business expenses. All of it documented, all of it proving the depth of her deception. The gallery lets her go in September, quietly, professionally, with a press release about pursuing new opportunities and exploring independent ventures. But everyone in the art world knows what it means when someone of Claire's supposed stature suddenly goes independent without startup capital. She's broke, she's unemployed, and she's completely unprepared for either condition. Alan Rowe stops taking her calls in October. I know this because Claire calls me, crying, at 2 in the morning. "He won't answer his phone," she sobs into my voicemail. 18 months of promises, and he won't even talk to me. I delete the message without listening to it completely. By November, Claire has moved into a studio apartment in Queens. The building has thin walls and broken elevators and neighbors who don't know her name. It's the kind of place she would have sneered at during our marriage, a reminder of the life she could have had if she'd made different choices. She finds work at a small frame shop in Astoria. Minimum wage plus commission. She stands behind a counter helping customers choose matting for their children's artwork and wedding photos. A 42-year-old woman with an art history degree from Vassar, measuring glass for 8 hours a day. I know this because Lena tells me. She calls in December, 3 weeks before Christmas. "I saw Mom yesterday," she says without preamble. "She looks terrible. I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you?" I consider the question seriously. Am I sorry that Claire looks terrible? Sorry that her choices have consequences? Sorry that the woman who lied to me for 18 years is finally experiencing the kind of powerlessness I felt every time she traveled to Montreal? "No," I say finally. "I'm not sorry." Lena is quiet for a long moment. She's living in a place that barely qualifies as an apartment, working retail, eating ramen noodles for dinner. "How's school?" "Don't change the subject." "I'm not changing the subject. I'm choosing a different one." "You destroyed her life." "She destroyed her own life. I just stopped subsidizing it." Another silence. Longer this time. "The money you gave me only lasted 1 semester," Lena says finally. "I know. I had to take out loans for spring tuition, and I'm working at the campus bookstore 20 hours a week." "Good. You'll appreciate your education more if you're paying for it yourself." "That's cold, even for you." "Is it? Your mother and I paid for 18 years of your life. Your food, your clothes, your school, your activities, your medical bills, your college application fees. We gave you everything a child needs and most of what a child wants. Now you're an adult. Adults pay their own way. I'm your daughter." "No," I say quietly. "You're not." She hangs up. I sit in my apartment looking out at the Hudson River and feel something I haven't felt in months. Not regret, exactly. Loss. The ghost of what I thought I had, haunting the edges of what I actually have. Claire calls me directly 2 weeks later. I almost don't answer, but curiosity wins. "I know you hate me," she says. Her voice sounds different, smaller, rougher around the edges. "But please, just listen." I don't hang up. I don't speak either. "I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. I know that. But what you've done to me. Caleb, I can't even afford groceries. My landlord is threatening eviction. I applied for food stamps yesterday. And what? How can you be so calm about this? How can you just watch me fall apart and feel nothing? I felt plenty for 18 years. I'm tired of feeling. I never meant to hurt you. Yes, you did. Maybe not consciously, but every time you chose Alan over our marriage, every time you let me raise another man's child while lying to my face, every time you took my money and my trust and my love and used them to subsidize your betrayal, you meant to hurt me. You just didn't think you'd get caught. She's crying again. I can hear it in her breathing. What can I do? She asks. Tell me what I can do to make this right. Nothing. There's nothing you can do because there's nothing I want from you. Not apologies, not explanations, not promises to change. Nothing. Caleb, you wanted to know what it felt like to have everything you care about taken away from you. Now you know. I hang up and block her number. Spring arrives early in New York. By March, I've settled into routines that don't include either of them. Work at Blue Signal 3 days a week, enough to maintain control, not enough to let it consume me. Reading in the evenings, long walks through Central Park, dinners alone at restaurants where no one knows my name or my story. It's peaceful in a way my marriage never was. No schedules to coordinate, no social obligations to fulfill, no secrets to pretend not to see. I wake up when I want to wake up. I eat what I want to eat. I spend my money on things that actually make me happy instead of maintaining the illusion of happiness. The divorce is finalized in April. Claire doesn't contest anything. She can't afford to contest anything. The decree is 15 pages of legal language that boils down to a simple truth. She gets nothing because she deserves nothing. Thomas calls to tell me it's finished. How do you feel? He asks. Free, I say, and realize I mean it. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Lena's dean of students at Columbia. She's failing 3 classes, missed too many shifts at her campus job, and owes $3,000 in unpaid tuition fees. She's listed you as her emergency contact, the dean explains. We wanted to reach out before we have to dismiss her from the program. Have you spoken to her mother? We tried. The number we have is disconnected. I think about this. Lena, struggling through organic chemistry and art history seminars while working 20 hours a week to pay for ramen noodles and textbooks. Watching her GPA crumble under the weight of financial stress I could eliminate with a single phone call. What happens if she's dismissed? She'd lose her student visa status, since she's not a citizen. She'd have to leave the country or find another way to maintain legal status. Lena was born in Montreal during one of Claire's research trips. Another lie I should have questioned 18 years ago. I see, I say. Thank you for calling. I don't write the check. By May, both Claire and Lena have disappeared from my immediate orbit. No calls, no texts, no mutual friends reporting their whereabouts or conditions. They've become ghosts, people who once shaped my daily life but now exist only in the peripheral awareness that they're somewhere in the world, dealing with consequences I set in motion. I should feel guilty about this. A year ago, I would have felt guilty. The man who raised Lena from birth, who taught her to read and drive and think critically about the world, would have been horrified by his willingness to let her fail. But that man was living a lie. This man, the one who knows exactly where he stands and why, feels something closer to relief. Justice isn't always kind, but it's always honest. And after 18 years of lies, honesty feels like the only luxury worth having. I buy a house in Amagansett 6 months after the divorce is finalized. Nothing pretentious, just a weathered cedar cottage 2 blocks from the beach, with large windows and a small garden that needs work. The kind of place where you can hear the ocean at night and watch storms roll in from the Atlantic. I'm 54 years old and starting over. Most men my age are worried about college tuition and retirement planning and keeping marriages intact. I'm learning to live with silence. The house came furnished with pieces the previous owner couldn't take. A kitchen table scarred by decades of family dinners, bookshelves lined with paperbacks, a porch swing that creaks in the salt wind. I keep most of it. There's something honest about furniture that shows its use, chairs that sag in the right places, rugs worn soft by other people's lives. I work from home now, consulting for biotech companies that need expertise in FDA approvals and clinical trial design. It's engaging enough to pay the bills and simple enough to leave time for other things. Reading, walking, learning to cook for one person instead of three. The loneliness hits in waves, usually in the evenings when the house grows quiet and the ocean sounds like white noise. I miss having people to talk to about small things, whether it's going to rain tomorrow, what to watch on television, whether the basil in the garden is ready to harvest. I don't miss Claire exactly, but I miss the idea of companionship that she represented before I knew better. I miss Lena more, but not the Lena who exists in the world now. I miss the 6-year-old who built blanket forts in the living room and asked me to read the same story 3 times in a row. The 10-year-old who collected shells on the beach and made me identify cloud formations. The 14-year-old who still hugged me goodnight even when she was too cool for most parental affection. Those memories feel like artifacts from someone else's life now. Precious, but untouchable. Evidence of love that was real even if the foundation beneath it was false. In August, I run into Dee at the farmer's market in East Hampton. She's buying tomatoes with her husband, looking prosperous and content in the way that money and good weather and stable marriages make possible. "Caleb," she says, her voice carefully neutral. "How are you?" "I'm well. You?" "Good. We're good." She glances at her husband, who nods politely and moves toward the corn stand, giving us space for a conversation he probably doesn't want to hear. "I heard about Claire," Dee says when we're alone. "And Lena. I'm sorry. Are you?" She studies my face, looking for something. Bitterness, maybe. Or signs of regret that would make her feel better about her own choices. "You always seemed like such a devoted father," she says finally. "I was. To the daughter I thought I had. But she's still the same person. Biology doesn't change who she is. Doesn't it? Because the person I thought she was would have told me the truth. The person I thought she was wouldn't have let me live a lie for 18 years. Dee's face softens. She was a child, Caleb. She didn't choose to be born into this situation. No, but she chose to perpetuate it. Every birthday card that said Dad, every Father's Day gift, every time she let me believe we shared something real, those were choices. Maybe she was protecting you? From what? The truth? The only thing I needed protection from was the lie. Dee nods slowly. I heard she had to leave school. I heard that too. And Claire's working in a frame shop in Queens. So I'm told? We stand in silence for a moment, surrounded by the cheerful bustle of people buying vegetables and fresh bread and flowers for their weekend dinner parties. Normal people with normal problems and normal secrets that don't unravel entire decades. Do you ever wonder if you went too far? Dee asks. I consider this seriously. Do I wonder? In the dark hours before dawn when sleep won't come, do I question whether my response was proportionate to their betrayal? No, I say finally. I wonder if I should have done it sooner. Dee's husband returns with a bag of corn and peaches. I wish them both a pleasant afternoon and walk back to my car. That evening I sit on the porch swing with a glass of wine and watch the sun set over the bay. The water turns gold, then orange, then deep purple as darkness settles over the water. Lights begin to flicker on in houses across the bay. Other people settling into their evening routines. Other families gathering around dinner tables. I don't envy them exactly, but I remember what it felt like to be part of something larger than myself. To have people who depended on me, who shared my concerns about mundane things like grocery lists and school pickup times, and whose turn it was to take out the trash. The silence felt liberating at first. Now it sometimes feels like exile. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. I saw Dee today. She said she talked to you. I know you probably won't read this, but I wanted you to know that I think about you every day. Both of you. I know sorry isn't enough. I know nothing is enough. But I am sorry. For all of it. C. I read it twice, then delete it without responding. Claire's apologies are 18 years too late and approximately worthless. They're not for me anyway. They're for her, attempts to alleviate guilt that should be permanent. Some mistakes don't deserve forgiveness. Some betrayals don't earn redemption. I finish my wine and go inside to make dinner. Salmon with herbs from the garden, rice pilaf, a salad with tomatoes I bought at the same stand where Dee was shopping. I eat slowly, savoring flavors I actually chose instead of meals planned by committee and compromise. After dinner, I walk down to the beach. The ocean is calm tonight, waves lapping gently against the sand. A few other people are walking their dogs or watching the last light fade from the western sky. I nod to them as we pass, brief acknowledgments between strangers sharing the same temporary moment. This is my life now. Quiet, solitary, honest. I choose what to eat and when to eat it. I choose what books to read and what music to listen to and how to spend my Saturday afternoons. I choose to remember the good parts of raising Lena while acknowledging the deception that made those memories possible. I choose not to regret the 18 years I lost, because regret is just another form of living in the past. Standing at the edge of the continent, watching waves roll in from 3,000 miles of open ocean, I feel something I haven't felt since before I knew the truth. Peace. Not happiness exactly. That might come later, or it might not. But peace with the choices I've made and the life I'm building from the wreckage of the life I thought I had. The moon rises over the water, casting a silver path across the waves. I follow it with my eyes until it disappears into darkness, then turn and walk back toward the house, where every light I see burning is one I turned on myself. Behind me, my footprints mark a straight line in the sand. No detours, no hesitation, no looking back. The tide will erase them by morning, but new ones will take their place, and the next day, and the day after that. I have time now, time to waste, and time to savor, and time to spend however I choose. Time to build something real instead of maintaining something false. It's the only thing I couldn't get back, and now it's the only thing I have. But it's enough. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.